So today we're going to be showing you how to inject through the back of the collar of a metallic joint, whether it be lead yarn or whether it be a mechanical joint with a rubber seal, using the ALH 3 litre Flexspray injection pot. So in order for this operation to be carried out, we're going to need the 3 litre Flexspray pot, complete with a pump to pressurise it and an outlet hose which we will connect to the gland that we have drilled and screwed into the back of the collar on the main. You need a fresh 3 litre container of Flexspray, and you need the sachet of catalyst that goes with it. So starting with the equipment, we got our pot ready to use, so we'll unhook it from its transport hook. Open the vent tap on the side of the pot, so that's closed, that's open, to make sure there's no pressure in the pot. Reference the gauge to confirm there's no pressure in the pot, and then simply swing the locking washers out of the way. So if we now open the lid, inside here is our spring balance, and this is what we're going to use to determine how much fluid we've injected into each individual joint. So at this point we just replace the lid, swing the locking washers over into position, and now we pick the pot up, fit the spring balance to the stand, pull the pin and extend the stand to its operating height. Close the clip. So we're now going to pick the pot up and suspend it from the spring balance. And we're going to note the weight of the pot without any fluid in it. So we can see that that's pretty nigh on 20 kilograms at the moment. So when we now put the fluid in there, obviously that weight will increase and we will see the weight decrease as we inject the fluid into the pipe. So 20 kilos is our reference weight. So we'll once again open the pot. Just have a little look at the tube, make sure that it doesn't appear to be contaminated, make sure our outlet valve is operational, that's fine. And now we'll mix our resin and catalyst. Okay, so we've got our resin and catalyst, so open the top of the resin and then carefully cut the corner of the catalyst pouch. And just make sure that you get all the catalyst down into the resin pot. Set that aside for disposal. Replace the lid. And you now need to give this a bit of a shake for at least 15 seconds, so make sure the lid is on it properly, make sure you're wearing eye protection and gloves. Once we've shaken that up, ready to put it into the pot, we can remove the lid again, and what we need to make sure now is you can see there's a reference mark here in the shape of a V, so when we put our resin pot in there, the spout wants to align pretty much with the V, because there is another reference V on the lid, and you can see that the pickup spout is off center. So when we now put that pickup spout in there, those V's will be aligned and we're sure that we're going to pick up resin. And once the lid is on, swing all the locking washers across and just check that they're all closed. Now we can attach our pump, make sure it's locked on, and now we're going to attach the whole affair back onto our spring balance, and we will note the new weight. So the new weight now is just short of 25 kilos, and then we'll take our outlet tube. At this point we want to close the vent tap, and take our outlet tube Make sure both of these valves are currently closed. Okay, valve on the pot and the squeeze off valve. We can attach to our injection gland in the back of the joint. We just got a 19mm spanner and just need to nip that up to make sure the nylon is sealing. Again, making sure our vent valve is closed. Open our squeeze off valve. We've now got mains pressure as far as here. And when we slowly open this valve, on low pressure you'll barely see any movement on this gauge, and on medium pressure obviously you will see movement, whether it's 5, 10, 20, 30 psi. And the pot has now been pressurized to mains pressure. As we're working on a zero pressure system, there is nothing registered on the gauge. So what we now need to do is close our vent valve, use the pump to bring the pressure in the pot up to approximately 5 psi above mains pressure. Okay, so we now start to pressurize the pot, and you can probably see sealant is now coming through the hose. And we'll bring that pot up to approximately 5 psi above mains pressure on that gauge. Depending on just how severe the leakage in the joint is and how poor the condition of the hemp, if it's a lead yarn joint, this process is likely to take several minutes per litre, perhaps as much as 5 or 10 minutes per litre. If you see the pressure degrading in the pot, then all you need to do is stroke the pump a few times just to make sure you maintain that 5 psi above mains pressure. Just as we're okay, so you see we're starting to get some air out now, so we've pretty much reached the end of the capacity of that 3 litre tub, which was the size we wanted for this particular main, a very large diameter main. Working on, and what the recommended amount of sealant to be injected is, in addition to monitoring the pressure in the pot and making sure we're staying about 5 psi above mains pressure, we will also be making occasional reference to the spring balance here, so that we know how much material has gone in. More or less 1 kilo loss of weight is 1 litre injected. So we could either stop at this point and move on to another joint. For the purposes of the demonstration, we will run the sealant out so that we see what happens when we get to the end of the 3 litres of supply. Okay, now we can see that there's now air coming out with the sealant, so that indicates that the dip tube is now above the level of sealant, and we've pretty much run our 3 litres out. And if I refer to the spring balance, you know, we're back to just under 21 kilos, so that's about right. Okay, so that's the 3 litres of sealant exhausted. Okay, so we can now close our outlet valve on the pot, and that will allow us to go and disconnect at the main. Disconnect our hose this end. It's a good idea to have 2 spanners if you're on the pipe, so you don't unscrew the nipple. So just break that gland off there. Just be aware that if you're working on medium pressure, you may get some gas come back out of the gland at you. Just keep your head to the side. Pull that out from there. Make sure your seal is in the cap. Fit the cap to your gland. Tighten it up. And you can then soak test that, make sure it's good. Having emptied all the sealant, what we now need to do is clean the system through. Make sure our outlet valve is closed. We're disconnected from the main anyway, and we vent the pot down through the vent valve. We'll just check on our gauge to see that there's no residual pressure in the pot. Disconnect our pump. Remove the pot from the spring balance and open the lid. Just swing the washers aside. Just give the dip tube a little shake in there. Set that to one side. We can remove the residual sealant, and we'll now use this as a waste pot to catch residual fluid and water as we clean out. So what we got here is a 3 litre pot of clean water. And put that into the pressure pot, aligning it again with the V to make sure that our dip tube locates properly when we once again align the two V's at this point. Put the lid back in, swing the washers across. We don't need to concern ourselves with our spring balance for what we're going to do next. So we need to reconnect the airline. So we've got the outlet valve open, make sure the squeeze off valve is open and just pump away. And now we'll see the clean water cleaning our lines, washing away any residual sealant. If you don't do this, the sealant will gel off and gum up all the lines and valves. Good idea halfway through this to just open that ball valve to about the halfway point, and then full, about the halfway point and full. Just do that a couple of times so that you make sure you flush out the inside element of the ball valve. And once again, we just keep going until we've exhausted the water, and again we'll see air bubbles coming out. It takes a couple of minutes. Okay, here comes the air, so we've reached we're now above the level of the water in our pot. There shouldn't be any pressure in the pot because it's just blowing it out of the hose. But just to be sure of that, we'll open our vent and reference our gauge. Gauge is 0. Disconnect our pump. Close our outlet valve again. Swing the locking washers and remove the lid. Again, just give the dip tube a little shake, get any water out of it. We can now remove what was our clean water container, and we can refill that with clean water to use it again on the next job. Take our spring balance, put him in the tub, replace the lid, slide the locking washers over, bring the stand back to its travel position, suspend the pot, just tidy it up. And then put the lid back on the waste that we've just created, and that needs to be disposed of in accordance with local regulation.